G'day humans, Chris Stead here. Today I'm reviewing the Sony Bravia Theatre Bar 8. Let's jump in. So it's true that TV speakers are getting pretty good nowadays. In fact, the Sony Bravia 9 that I've got up here has 8 speakers in it. It's a 2.2.2 system in this thing. However, if you really truly want to get immersed in your entertainment, your gaming, your sport, whatever it happens to be, then you do want that soundbar experience. It really does heighten it and bring it to life. Now, yes, there are definitely benefits of hooking something like the Sony soundbar here to a Sony TV. For example, this has an acoustic sync system whereby you can use the TV as one of the channels, adding to what's already here. The remotes obviously work together. It sends signals to each other and it knows what it's doing, the TV and the sound system. But you don't have to pair it with a Sony TV. You can use this with any sort of TV that you might want to use. So, is the Sony Bravia Theatre Bar 8 any good? Let's jump into the review, and as always I like to start with the price, and it's quite pricey, this thing. It's $14.99 here in Australia for just the soundbar. So you're not getting a subwoofer with that. And I think that's important to note, because if you do want to pick up a subwoofer from the Sony ecosystem, you're possibly looking up to $700 more to get that kind of deeper bass experience. And a spoiler alert, I think you're going to need it too. So that's a bit of an investment. You can get soundbars definitely under $1,000 here in Australia, which do a pretty good job. Having said that, this does a pretty good job too. And we're going to go through and have a look at the specs right now and just have a taste of what you're going to get for that money. Despite the far sexier Bravia Theatre Bar 8 naming convention, this is technically the HT-A8000, and it's replacing the HT-A5000 from 2023. So the 2024 model we're looking at here. Now it's 11 speaker channels up here, so it's up from 9 last year. We've got 3 front tweeters, 4 woofers, 2 upward firing, for the first time 2 side firing. There's also 4 passive radiators for deep bass, or deeper bass anyway, built into this rather small device. All up, you're looking at 495 watts worth of power. So it's got Dolby Atmos support, and technically you would call it a 5.0.2 system technically, but Sony feels that kind of nomenclature is out of date because of its 360 spatial sound that it now uses, and the sound mapping and the way it bounces off objects to create a surround sound effect, and it does that really, really well. It's also got 360 reality audio. Now, interestingly, I thought Bluetooth is 5.2, and I say interestingly because lossless audio is 5.4. It requires Bluetooth 5.4. I'm not sure how big a deal that is, because I don't really know how often you'd want a Bluetooth lossless to the device as opposed to just listening to it through the actual TV or whatever. But I thought that was quite interesting that they don't have the highest end Bluetooth in this high-end Sony device. Now it's got full HDMI pass-through advertised, but as I'll go into in a little bit, it doesn't hit the mark for me. App control, which is excellent, and the whole setup process and the calibration process through the app is really, really, really good, and it's just a fun experience. It sounds fantastic. Now, despite the fact that there's more speakers in this year's model, it's 30% smaller than last year's, at 1.1 meters long, and weighs in at 4.7 kilograms. It has one HDMI in and one HDMI out, but as I'll go into, that's supposed to be able to pass through 4K at 120p, and the gaming features, Dolby Vision, HDR, all that kind of stuff, but I had problems with that. But I'll go into that a little bit more in a second. One thing I do like is the AI sound separation for 2-channel content. So if you're listening to something in stereo, it will break it apart. It will try and give you that surround sound experience. It's got the Acoustic Center Sync 2.0, which I mentioned before, that can add a Sony TV into the soundscape. It's also got Voice Zoom 3, which is a great feature that pulls out the audio from TV and movies, and basically makes the dialogue sound clearer, so you can hear it in amongst busy action sequences, for example. And you can also control this thing with your voice. So the setup experience with this was really quite good. Now, as you can see, I've just got it sitting on here. It does come packaged with wall mount brackets if you want to put it on your wall. And if you want to check out my review of the Sony Bravia 9, I go into more detail about this, but you can also adjust the legs of the stand on the TV so that they perfectly fit these Sony soundbars. So that's another piece of the synergy that you get if you stay within the ecosystem. But yeah, the app experience I find really good. Bravia Connect, it's really straightforward. There's a lot of options in there, a lot of content you can go through. It's really easy, it's really responsive, and the setup was quite good. It all found each other really, really quickly, straight away. Just went pop, oh, you've got one of these things. You want to set it up? Yeah, I do. Pop, hit it and off I went. It took about 10 minutes. You need a Sony login if you don't have one already. That can be a bit of a drag on the process, but other than that, was really, really clinical. And then it does like the sound tests to basically set up your room specifically for your needs, so get that 360 sound mapping right. And that's just like some sort of sorcery. It's really cool listening to it all. And at the end, it plays like this demo of this Reality 360 demonstration, and you sit there going, wow, this is like an example of what you can experience with this thing if the content allows for it. And that's kind of something to note, because you know, if you're just streaming something off YouTube or whatever, like you're not going to get that. There's not a whole lot of content out there that you're going to be using day to day, which really maximizes it. But at least you know that when it does offer that type of experience, the thing can deliver this really great soundscape. So usually around now in my review, I'll talk about the design of the device itself, but you know, there's not a heck of a lot to go into really. It's a black bar. I will say that I am happy about the smaller footprint. Smaller footprint's always good, especially if you're actually including more sound, but minimizing the device. There's no kind of obnoxious lighting going on here. You're not going to get like blips and blops kind of impacting your viewing experience. The space at the back for the HDMI cables and the center sync cable is tight. It does require you to bend the HDMI cable a little bit to get it bent out. It's a pretty standard design in the Sony soundbars. I've been seeing it for years. I don't like it. Wish I just gave a little bit more space in there, but if that means compromising a speaker, maybe it's the lesser of two evils. The remote that comes with it is quite basic, quite small, and as soon as you got it paired with a Sony TV, you ditch that anyway, and you can actually just control it through your phone. So it's nice that it's there, but I have actually not even used it because I've just been using the TV remote or my phone to do all the controlling. I do have one criticism that's not really fair to label specifically on this device, because it's a thing with soundbars in general, but I would really like to see them do more with ambient lighting. So, you know, you can go to get Nanoleafs and Hues, and there's all these kind of third parties that'll put like atmospheric lighting around, but why not just have some lighting built into it that just kind of shines up on the wall here? You know, my gaming speakers do, and they cost $1,000 less than this. So that's something I'd like to see them do in the future. Okay then, so let's get into the performance of the Sony Bravia Theatre Bar 8. And if you're expecting to turn this thing on and just get blown away straight away, just like this wall of sound, that's not the type of experience it's going for. And I think that's a good thing. This is a much more balanced audio experience. It's a much more subtle in the way that it kind of creates its soundscape. It doesn't just like throttle you back, which is something that soundbars used to kind of do. Like you get a soundbar and you turn on the volume, would just be so, you'd be like, wow, this is amazing, but everything kind of gets muddled. That's not quite the experience you get here. It's a bit more balanced, and that's to its benefit. The things that advertises, like the 360, Reality 360 sound, the sound mapping, that kind of pseudo surround sound experience, the Voice Zoom 3, all that kind of stuff does work as advertised. It does create, you know, it does pull out the audio experience and improve it significantly on what you're getting out of your TV. The one thing it doesn't really deliver on is the bass for me. Like, there's bass, but it's not going to give you that bass that you're probably expecting from your home theatre system. And that's why I said at the top that you're probably going to want to pair this with a subwoofer. And that's going to obviously set you back some more money. But I think if you just put this on without the subwoofer, you're probably just going to feel quite underwhelmed by the bass, especially considering that you're outlaying up to $1,500 for this thing. So that's somewhere where it definitely could improve. Also, there's no really enhanced kind of listening modes. Really, there's a night mode that kind of like changes things to that voice Zoom 3, which does a little bit, but there's no like music specific kind of mode you can go into, which I think is a bit of a surprise considering where Sony as a brand is placed in the market. You know, it does a lot of stuff with music, but it's purposely built as a home theatre system specifically. Now, the one thing I have got an issue with is the HDMI port. So it's got two. So it's not just, so I've got the EARC cable here, which is coming from the TV's EARC port to the soundbar, and that's delivering like the full suite of sound to the device. My PlayStation is then going through this TV, and so I'm getting the full visual experience and I'm getting through the full audio experience. Now, there's an HDMI out and an HDMI in. So theoretically, from what I understood when I was reading the specs, I should be able to plug my PlayStation 5 directly into the soundbar and then pass it through the visuals to the TV. So the audio and the visuals go through this. The benefit of that is that it opens up one of the 2.1 ports on the TV for my Xbox. There's only two 2.1 ports. I know this is probably this might be confusing, but stay with me. Thing is that as soon as you pass through on this, it will pass through the 4K and it will pass through the 120 Hz refresh rate, but you do lose VRR, you do lose your auto HDR, and you do lose your auto low latency as well. So three of the key kind of features for gamers did not pass through the soundbar. And I don't know if that's because, my understanding was that it would, from what I read online, but it doesn't. And as soon as I put the PlayStation through the soundbar into the TV, those became unaccessible settings on the PlayStation 5. Couldn't do it. As soon as I swapped it back around and put it straight through the TV and put the audio through here, they're all accessible. So that HDMI 2.1 pass-through isn't up to the standard it needs to be for a gamer. It should be the hub through which I can do my gaming to my TV, but it can't because of the things that it doesn't really achieve. And I'm now juggling an Xbox and a PlayStation. If I want to use this, I have to take a hit on the PlayStation. And if I want to use this, I have to take a hit. When I use this, I have to take a hit on the Xbox. That makes sense. But that's obviously not going to be everyone's use case. And I think in its sweet spot, the Sony Theatre Bar, Sony Bravia Theatre Bar 8, does deliver a nice, balanced soundscape that really does create that effect of a surround sound experience. That mapping, it all actually does work and does enhance your viewing experience significantly. But you are going to want to spend a bit more on a subwoofer, I believe. And if you're into your gaming, that pass-through is also going to potentially create a dilemma for you, like it created a dilemma for me. And if you want to use it as a music experience as well, it works fine. Like you connect Spotify through it and everything like that. It'll play the music, but you can't really tweak it to maximize the music experience like you might be able to on some of the other soundbars on the market. So if you're part of that Sony ecosystem, you've got the PlayStation, you've got the Sony TV, you want a soundbar, absolutely, this thing is going to give you a really good experience. It's going to fill into that ecosystem really well. You just got to pay a little bit more for a sub to really knock it out of the park. Otherwise, there may be some good arguments to have a look elsewhere and see what else is on the market. All right, those are my thoughts on the Sony Bravia Theatre Bar 8. I'm Chris Stead. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'll check you later. You.